What's up, y'all?
Hey.
LTA Reasons here. This is throwing light, and if you're not throwing light, you're not acting right. Reminding you guys, YouTube channel, all the throwing light interviews, the throwing light tour. We finished again. I finished the tour in New Orleans. I should be getting that posted up. We'll be headed to Fort Lauderdale, end of August. We will be doing New England, I think, in October. And then we'll be at the Eagle LA in November. So those are on track. Future cities coming. I'm working with Atlanta and I'm working with Chicago outside of IML. And I'll be in Phoenix so far next year in 2027. So you'll keep following that. You guys want to help cast these panels in your communities. I would love that help if you have any recommendations. With all that being said and done, what's this on my screen? Let me get this
I
up.
don't know. You got to come
Okay,
up to
sorry.
Seattle. You got to figure out how to
Oh,
get you up
no,
to
we're going to talk
Seattle.
this. Seattle is my, okay, first of all, hello, everybody. It's episode 173, and we've got Emerald Onyx right here next to me,
Hey,
who's in Seattle, Washington.
correct.
Okay, so Emerald, that is the
Yeah.
one city that I go to that I want to come back to. I
Okay.
know that's
Come
crazy.
back
I
up.
know, because they're like, oh, the weather. I'm like, look, boo, like, I don't get in the water wherever I'm. So it's not going to make a difference if you, because I'm
Right.
not going to get in the water. You know what I'm saying? I went to Hawaii and I got in the water
Right.
one time. I don't,
I understand.
it's not, I love to be by water, but be in it, that's a different story.
Yeah.
So,
And our
but,
water is cold. The Pacific is cold. Like we're
you know,
cold
but it's
water.
manageable. Like, y'all don't go down to -2 degrees. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Yeah. Like,
Mm-mm.
I went in June and they called it Juniorary.
Nah. Yeah.
Saying that
Yeah,
it's
because
like
it's cold
January.
up here. Yeah.
I like it though. It's pretty. The water's pretty. The food's great. The culture's great. I actually,
Yeah.
the last time I came to Seattle, I actually flew into Seattle and I
Okay.
drove to Victoria for my birthday 2 years ago.
Excellent.
I
Excellent. Yeah.
absolutely love the Pacific Northwest for so
Yeah.
many reasons. And I think if I were to leave here in Austin, that's where I would go because I just think it's
Hmm.
phenomenally beautiful. I know the weather can be a little dreary, but we get used to our pros and cons wherever we are. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. I mean, I will say, like, if you want to come up here,
I do. We're going to
we
talk
have a
about
lot of Texans, huh?
that. I do want to come up there. We're going to
Yeah, we
talk.
have a lot of
We're
Texans.
going to
I
talk
love
about that.
Texans. I always meet Texans because I'm from the West Coast. So I always meet Texans on the West Coast. And I'm like, we should go back. And they're like, I paid too much money to get out the South. I'm not going back. And so, but I love my grandma's from Texas. My husband's from Texas. I just love Texas, Houston and San Antonio specifically. So yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think
I
that
should probably do an intro or something before we just like
Emerald
PTA. Yeah.
Onyx is your mixed Washington leather
Yeah.
2026. All
Yeah.
right, non-binary representation. That's what I'm talking
Yes.
about. Okay. So,
Yes.
Emerald, I'm glad to have you. We will talk more about the beautiful landscape because I'm interested in coming to do a 1-2 punch throwing light panel in Seattle and
Yeah.
Portland. So that's
Yeah.
what I would like to do next year. So
Yeah.
we can talk
I
about
mean,
that.
honestly, the Leather Leadership Conference is
I
happening
know.
in February.
February.
So if you could swing it, you could probably capture all of that at the same time. So
That is a great idea. And I saw that it
yeah.
was coming up there. I'm gonna put that down. It's leather leadership. Because I talked to somebody about going to it. My friends.
Yeah. I'm excited that it's going to be in Portland this
All
year.
right. So yeah, I will look into that. You got me because I don't have
Yeah.
anything going on in February right now. All right, Emerald,
Hello.
we be
We're
navigating
in
this
it.
community and everything. So why don't you go ahead and tell the audience and everybody how you first got involved into the community? What brought you
Yeah. So I mean,
pre-sash, pre-sash, pre-sash.
pre-Sash. Okay. So um a lot of my friends and people up here have already heard this story, but I grew up in San Francisco. So I was born and raised there. And so leather was kind of just a thing in the background. I came out when I was 13.
Wow.
It was the 90s. I'm going to leave it at that, but it was the 90s. I came out when I was 13, and I was very fortunate to be surrounded by like basically queer elders and queer love, and queer peers and queer youth. And so leather and kink, but mostly leather, was just like in the background over there, like over there. And I went to my first Folsom at 14. So I got to see a lot of different things. And
At
then
14.
at Fort, well, okay, so the Folsom Street Fair is actually held down the street from the San Francisco Public Library. And
Yeah.
I'm a big reading nerd. Like I'm a big book nerd. So I was reading books and I was just curious and I ended up there. And I've kind of always I've looked vaguely 25 since I was like 14, 15. So that is how I got in. So I was
Vaguely
if
25. Okay.
vaguely like because people like if I'm hanging out with older people, and which I was at the time, like because all of the when I was growing up, the queer youth was 23 and under. So a lot of us were just sort of mingling, and people would find out how old I was later. Like I would just be hanging out with people, just like chopping it up, and they would be like, "How old are you?" And I would be like, "Oh, I'm 14," and they'd be like, kind of shocked. So I definitely played that to my advantage, but I went to my first Folsom at 14, and then I kind of just like I was a peer health educator, sexual health educator, and queer youth activist, and so I was aware of Folsom, but I wasn't trying to go back all the time. And then when I went to college, I some leather dykes actually adopted me. Like they just kind of like took me in and they were like, "Oh, come here, little college freshman." And they were the ones that first took me to like the Citadel and a lot of the other dungeons that were around. And so I got to see like fire play and electro play and all that stuff back then. And then I at 20, I decided that I wanted to get out of San Francisco because my whole family's there. I had grown up there. I kind of had become like I was very supported, but there's a lot of stuff you don't know about yourself unless you can go somewhere else and like make mistakes. And so I decided that place for me was going to be Portland. And I moved to Portland and I actually didn't, I like had a few brush-ins with the leather community there, but I actually didn't, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. And that's no disrespect for Portland. I've met people there now that are really great, but like at the time I was just like, I got to focus on school. I'm going to do that. So that's what I did there. And then um, 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I moved to Seattle and got involved with, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, got involved with leather through ONYX again. And so it was kind of like a homecoming because it was the chapter that I was a part of is based in San Francisco. And it just felt like a full circle moment for me.
So San Francisco, I got to go back and we got to talk about San
Yeah, yeah,
Francisco.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
What
like
the
my
pieces I'm
outline
missing
story.
here is that you come out at 13. What are your parents saying about this?
Uh, you know, they were both supportive in their own ways. Like, so it was my mom, my dad, and my grandma. And um I hung out with my grandma a lot. Like, I love her. Her name is tattooed on my arm. So she was very supportive. My dad was very supportive, and my mom was very supportive in coming out. But it's also like to paint a picture, this is also like 2000, right? So it's a very different conversation and landscape at the time. For folks who are maybe younger, this is pre-social media, pre-Twitter by like a decade and a half almost in a lot of ways. And a lot of people like there's no RuPaul's Drag Race. There's just Will and Grace. You don't know Will and Grace, look it up. There's just like the Ellen show, it just happened. So the conversation was very different. People didn't know gay people like that in gay culture like that. But my mom joined P Flag. My dad, he owned a black barbershop. He was a black barber, and he did the work. I like look back on it now and just think about who my dad was and like how much he wanted to connect with his kid. And my dad like did the own work to form friendships around queerness with people of his age group. So he went and found queer people to be friends with, and he would have them at the barber shop and talk with them. And I was so, at the time, because I'm a teenager, I was so just like, you don't understand me. I'm like, I'm new, I'm unique. But he made a lot of strides in our relationship to understand queerness and to to do that work himself. So that was really good. And then, I was the first one in my family to come out on that side, on my mom's side of the family. But since then, there have been multiple people who have come out. And so of the generations that came out before us, I mean after us, after me, I should say. But yeah, my aunt was supportive. My family was just very supportive. It wasn't like bad. It was just like they didn't know what to expect. They had all of these like they would just mess up on the narratives that they were applying to me. They'd be like, "Oh, when you get a wife," and they'd be like, "Oh, my bad, my husband, your husband, or whatever." You know what I mean? So
Which
it's
they
like,
were, it sounds like they were trying. And, look,
yeah,
let's talk about the 90s a little bit because the landscape was different. See, look, I had one of the first computers in my neighborhood in my house in
yeah,
1997. My mom,
yeah,
yeah, I had all the contraptions, all the things. I was
yeah,
lucky to have grown up in a black family, but one that was economically
yeah,
competitive with
yes,
white people, I guess you could say.
yeah,
I would have white kids jealous all the time because I was getting into
yeah,
vehicles and things like that. And it was like, not only are you black, but you have more than us. Like, you know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like that kind of
yeah.
mentality. So the way people came up to me growing up was just very multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, I did not. I mentioned to my mom that I wanted to be a cheerleader, not because I was gay, just because I like being around girls
Yeah,
and I still enjoy being around women. People don't understand that. Like
yeah,
I've always wanted to be in co-ed environments. And
yeah,
and even when I went to college, I was like, I don't want to be around all boys. I don't want to be around all women.
yeah,
Like that's just how I am. I'm attracted
yeah,
to both,
yeah,
but it's taken time to come to that to have the space to talk about these things because there was no
totally.
bisexual back then that anyone took seriously
Mm-mm.
when we were growing up.
Yeah.
Though my peers would make half comments. They would make racial comments, calling me like there used to be the duck that would do the Aflac. They'd be like half black, which I'm actually fully black
Oh
on
no,
paper.
that sucks. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That's fucked up.
And then like, loose ass, I didn't realize what loose ass meant. That was like,
Oh wow.
I didn't know. And then it came out around about junior, senior, they but oh, loose is in the gray area. So like people were like
Yeah, comments all the time, left and
all
right.
the time, more so than
Yeah.
obviously to my day. I don't even people still bring up my race before I bring up my race. What are you? What's going
Wow.
on? You don't act like everybody else. Like,
Yeah.
and so I grew up in a religious home too, Baptist,
Mm.
right? Like they're
Hmm.
just like our what you got and what I could not. I had to meet my mom when I was in college, about 21, 22 at Red Lobster, back when they had a smoking
Oh
section.
wow.
Back when they had a smoking section. And
Yeah.
so,
Wow.
because she found a card for my birthday that one of my friends gave me, it had happy birthday girl. She thought that I wanted to be a girl. And I'm like,
Oh
no,
wow.
no,
Wow.
that's not at all. And so we just had a conversation and I was like, well, I could just not come around. She's like, no, it's not going to come down to that. But, life has changed. I've gone through some traumatic situations where they had to step up and determine what's more important,
Yeah.
an ideology or my son or mine,
Yeah.
something like that. So, I applaud you and I applaud that experience. And I hope you share that more about having that, because you don't hear that, especially among the Black queer communities and Black families, that, it's still unspoken and down low energy. You know what I'm saying? In a lot of ways,
Yeah.
especially where not so much in the church, though. I feel like that's the one place that Black people like just kind of like are like, the choir director's gay. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't like for me personally, like I'm a rarity in the sense of like, and for a long time I actually didn't first of all, thank you for sharing your story.
Yeah, sure.
And I appreciate you like really bringing the contrast of the ways that we grew up because I didn't grow up. I also like my dad when I was like 8 or 9, I turned to him and I was like, "Hey, Papa, why don't we go to church?" And he turned to me and he was like, "Religion is the opiate of the masses, son." And he just left it
Oh,
at that. and just said that, and like that was it, and it stuck with me so much that I can quote it back verbatim, and that's what he said. So we weren't even like a religious family like that. Like we
And that's
didn't
crazy
go.
because I have to take into consideration you're not in the South. Me being a
We're
black person
right.
in the
That's what I'm
South.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah, I get it
yeah,
now. Okay, I understand now.
yeah.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah, I mean, but your reaction is such a common reaction when I tell my story, especially because I'm 40 now, and the age cohort of people that I grew up with, I like now a lot of people when they come out, it's not a big deal. Like it's just not a big deal. But there's a certain I now that I'm older and also that I've aged and watched, there's a very different um you can tell there's a dividing line for people who grew up with social media, RuPaul's Drag Race, being exposed to queerness all the time.
We grew up with the real world
Yeah, we grew up with the real world
and
with
when it was
Pedro
real,
Zamora. Yeah,
when it
yeah,
was
and
real.
like Karamo, back when Karamo was a homo thug,
Even
like you know what I
before
mean?
that, dude, back
Like
with
before that,
Pedro,
yeah,
back with Dave, like back with Gay Dan, back with
yeah,
Danny, all but
yeah,
that was like back then,
yeah,
that was like everybody, all we wanted to get casted on the real world. Like who didn't want
yes,
to get casted on the real world? You know what I'm saying?
right. Yeah. So that, I mean, that's the thing. It's like the time that I grew up, the exposure to queer people and for straight people, like the monoculture really limited what got shown to people. And I'm very grateful that I grew up in a place where I saw a lot of different kind of possibility models. So much so that when I came out, it like I was considered like a very normal person. You know what I mean? I wasn't considered like I came out and the only thing that changed was I wasn't allowed to have boys over for sleepovers, and I wasn't allowed to like I still had to be home before the street lights came on.
Yeah.
And like that kind of love and I'm not saying that it wasn't difficult. It wasn't hard. And it wasn't like there were still things that were very hard to deal with, especially with in my family in particular, like extended family, my parents are divorced. When my mom would marry or like date other dudes, they always had something to say about me being queer and being out and being queer. And like my mom or my sister would have to get them together, you know? And so it was like, it wasn't like I didn't know that kind of discrimination and like bias existed. And I was so fortunate to be surrounded by that kind of love that people were like, you got to go out and sort of shine like that and like go out and shine your light around California. And so that, I mean, a lot of my jobs first coming up was like, again, peer health educator, speaker, uh, educator. And I was like talking to adults, like a 14-year-old kid talking to adults about like you can't be discriminating against kids. This is what happens when you like impact our lives and like too much is given, much is required. So I was very fortunate in that way that like I was given so much at an early age that I got to shine that outwardly. But it's a very different experience than a lot of Black queer folks of my age group grew up with. And for a long time, you mentioned earlier, oh, you should share your story. And for a long time, when I would share how I grew up with people, they would be like, man, whatever. Like you grew up in a magical land, whatever, fuck you. Like we had it hard out here in the South or in like sometimes it would be even as far away as
No,
Sacramento.
I think it's very important, especially for Black
Yeah.
people that are not in the South, to talk about because look, the Black South experience isn't our only experience, and I
Well, I
know
mean,
that's
yeah,
really
that's true,
hard.
but yeah, that's true. And excuse me for cutting
No,
you off, but it's also like I I understand the feeling of like because even for me as a person who grew up in the Bay, and like in San Francisco and having that experience, there were folks outside of San Francisco, Oakland, and Berkeley that were having very different experiences in the Bay,
for sure,
right? And
for
so it was like my situation is unique, like it's unique. It could happen in the Bay. I met a lot of other Black queer kids in the big cities that were having similar experiences, but it was definitely a unique experience for at the time.
I relate to you because I also
Yeah.
had a unique experience. It's like we're here, you don't hear people like us talking a lot about
Yeah.
the complexity of race and how little factors can change your whole upbringing experience.
Yeah.
With all this that's going down, you finally figure that you're going to step up. You're going to be mixed washing leather 2026. Okay.
Yeah.
Is this your first title?
Yeah, it was my first title.
Why now? Why this time? Why this moment?
A couple of reasons. The first is like I as I like started to become more like ingrained and entrenched in leather community, watching how people like had always had something to say about title holders and how they were can and I found myself falling into that trap, and I remember myself thinking to myself like, you know, you can't really talk about title holders. You've never really been a title holder. You don't really know anything about that. So why don't you just run and see if you get a title? And if you get a title, then you can, talk about that. So I think there's a lot of people who have stuff to say but haven't gone through that experience. And
Did you feel that you needed the title to be a part of the community or to get into the conversation, into
oh
the
no, no,
people?
no, not at all. I mean, I was already president of ONYX at that point, like our
Okay.
chapter up here.
Yeah.
I was already like, I know that for some people, winning a title is a way of confirming their leather identity. But I'm very grateful that I had ONYX. I had my experiences in San Francisco. I didn't feel like I wasn't leather enough, right? And I know that titles can be a way for people to feel validated in that identity, but I ran because I thought the work, like my main reason for running was I thought the work of a title holder was to be like an organizer and to like bring people together and to like create spaces and be like, especially for genderqueer titles, like the mixed title line, to show people the possibilities within leather. I think that we have moved a lot, like when Honey Davenport won, it was really interesting to see the reactions of people being like, "This isn't real leather. A drag queen can't win," and shit like that. Excuse me for cursing, but it really makes me upset
That is
because like
the
you can just go back into the archives. Like you don't even have to like. I remember going to leather contests. You don't have to like go back far. And there were drag performances at leather contests. There were gender bending things. Leather dykes have always existed. Queerness has always existed. Leather to me um, is a, it is the quintessential expression of queerness in the United States because it is leather representing sex, power, um, rebellion. And then to have a bunch of people be like, in order to be in leather, you have to look like this, you have to move like this, you have to do these things. When really there are leather people out there who own very few leather, but that model the leather ideals that we talk about all the time. And so the main reason why I ran was because I was like, I think this is what we need to do. And I think this is what is needed to come back into what leather is. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, and so that was my primary reason for running. My secondary, my those were my two primary reasons. And then I told myself I was going to run. Normally I'm not I'm not a like out in front kind of person, and I am not a person who would how do I put this? I like to be in the background. I like to just be effective in that way. And I told myself I was going to do something, and I wanted to keep a promise to myself. And so I ran. I promised myself I was going to run the year I turned 40, and I did. And then I won. And so I'm very fortunate in that regard.
Congratulations on all of that.
Thank you.
And now, you're president of the Onyx Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
How has that been in terms of being president of Onyx? I have so many, so many friends and people from across
Yeah.
the country in Onyx, and
Yeah.
everybody's just fantastic, you
Yeah.
know. So many
It's great.
different chapters, so many different chapters. How many total
Yeah.
chapters are there?
Well, we're the 13th chapter, and I think there's two more after us. So there's
About
at
15.
least 15 at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
There's more popping up like every
That's
year, it
great
feels like.
to
I
see that
know.
legacy grow, and I think it's
Yeah.
important. I honestly, do you do you do anything differently? Put a little different flavor on anything in Washington in terms of how you implement Onyx or bring people together?
We're not as I think the hardest thing that we're learning is that the Pacific Northwest are not outside people. We're inside more than outside. And
Really, really.
yeah, 100%. Like we're not, it's cold and it's rainy most of the year. And so folks are online. Folks are um, not in the bars in the same way. Onyx Pacific Northwest, we're a bunch of nerds. Like, you know what I mean? We're not like, and maybe the other Onyx chapter are a bunch of nerds too, but they're
Y'all play
nerds that
Magic and Dungeons and Dragons and all that?
absolutely
Yeah,
100%. Like, if you
yeah.
want to get all of the Onyx members up here to get into something, I could be like, I'm doing a D&D like online session, who's in? And you'll get more interest than like I'm going out to Leather Night and
Fair
like who wants
enough.
to go because people are tired.
I think it's a little
Also
bit
we're
of a cultural
more
shift, though.
geographically spread
I
out.
think a lot
Go
of
ahead.
people are finding out ways. I think generally in our culture, especially in the United States, we got so much stuff to keep us inside for entertainment too. So like it might be a
Yeah.
cultural shift, to be honest with you. We played
Yeah.
outside in the 90s. We played outside in the
It's
90s.
true.
I
It's
used to
true.
go and I used to pretend I was Christopher Columbus and go out in the world
Yes.
and try to find new land. That's what I used to
Yeah.
do in my free time. We
I
were
was Captain
outside.
Planet, but yeah, the
And then the
same.
internet came and we were inside. So
And
it
yeah, I think,
was
but what's important is like that social connection.
it's
And
important.
I
Yeah.
think what we're starting to see now, speaking of being inside now, so because there's a couple of things at play, I think. The first thing is like we were inside, we were forced inside. Like this is a post-COVID, post-quarantine world. And there's still people who are inside, but a lot of folks had time to sit with themselves and really figure out their queerness in that time. So that's the first thing. But I think the second thing is that for a long time, the internet in the real world kind of existed side by side for connection. And then during quarantine, we had only the internet for connection. And so a lot of people developed different kind of social norms. And you have to remember like a 15-year-old, like someone who's 15 in 2020 is now 21 in 2026, right? Or yeah, 21, 22. So you got a whole batch of people who had their formative social years inside, right? And so I have a lot of understanding about people who are inside all the time, but what we've lost, I think there's something also that we've lost in terms of like learning how to connect with people in real life and learning how to have conversations with people in real life, in real time, right? Because you have a lot of people who get online, got opinions, and then don't say nothing to people in person
Mhm.
and they just sort of like the leather is a great way of myth making, but so is being online, right?
Yeah.
And so people can make up myths and make up stories about folks and not really get to know those people.
Mhm.
And when you're playing with people in real time or when you're playing with folks in real spaces and watching their bodies move, watching their reactions, that's a different bunch of information you're getting. That's different than like the words on a screen or the pictures on a page. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get it. All right, Aaron, we are towards the end of our show, and now I'm going to
Oh, my bad.
these things go by fast. I have to be honest with
Yeah.
you. So you're always invited to come back. I would love to do an Onyx like special.
Yeah, that
Get
would
a
be
bunch
great.
of the
Let's do
Onyx
it.
chapters together and do something. So like, yeah, and then I am
Yeah.
interested in leather leadership, and I'm interested in coming to do a throwing light panel. So I'm gonna be in your
Yeah.
DMs. I'm gonna be
Okay,
in your
please.
DMs
I
immediately.
appreciate you make me smile every time I see your thing pop up. So it's your name pop up, not your thing. That's your OnlyFans. That's a different conversation. That's a different conversation. That's not for this podcast. But like But it's always a pleasure to see your name. So thank you
Thank
so
you. I
much.
appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just hope that I hope I continue to grow and I hope that I can continue to be consistent and
Yeah.
just reliable. But I want us to have fun. I really do. I want our
Me
community
too.
to have fun, even with all the shit going on in the world. Like we still can dance, we still can party. We
I
just got to
agree.
make sure we're protecting ourselves first, though. We want to
Yeah.
make sure that we're standing up and fighting for what's important because hard work,
Mhm.
you play hard, you work hard, you play hard. Okay, y'all, we can do
Yeah.
that. We can get there, but we really do have to work hard. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to give
Yeah.
you the question I give everybody on my show
Okay.
tour. And what is an aspect of our community that you feel we are not shedding enough light on?
Who's we?
Let's say the LGBTQI plus community abroad, mainstream.
I don't think we learn enough history.
Yeah,
Um, I think, and not that is a symptom of living in a society that doesn't really value history and is
not at
ahistorical.
all. Not
You're
today.
right. But
It
I
shows.
think, huh?
It
And it
shows.
shows, yeah. I think there is a lot of power in queer history, and the more intersections you add to queerness, the more power there is in our stories. We've survived and thrived in conditions that are fucking wild, like just crazy, or not crazy, but really hectic, really off the chart, in terms of like uh, the discrimination. And I think for me, I draw a lot of inspiration from folks like Audre Lorde, folks like James Baldwin,
James Baldwin.
Langston Hughes. I draw a lot of inspiration from folks like Marlon Riggs, Joseph Beam, you know,
Yeah.
Alice Walker,
Yeah.
and the scholarship and the work that these queer folks have done and Black queer folks have done to preserve our history, but also sort of pass forward like there is a brighter future. And I think the more we can learn about the different eras of queerness in the United States and how queer people and queer people of color, queer disabled folks got through it, the more we can find the ability within ourselves to
Right on.
bring forward our new queer futures,
You're right
Yeah.
on. Yeah, I'm writing and I'm using a lot of I'm using a lot of Frederick Douglass right now. In my
Yes.
book called American Like Me, and I got American Like Me from James Baldwin's Black Like Me.
Yes.
So I am very much a like a literature, somewhat historical nerd. Um,
Yeah.
when I worked on my PhD, I took some taking African American classes in school were great. I had a black
Yeah.
professor. The only thing that really sucked is like some of the other black peers will refer to me as Black Lewis with quotation marks.
You
So
said
I've had a
Black Lewis?
journey. Yeah, I've had a journey, dude, with race.
I bet.
So anywho, I was able to do a lot of that. But anywho, okay. Well, that's
I
going to
would
be
love to
the
keep talking, but yeah, I want to be
end.
respectful of your time.
No worries. Yeah, I had something coming in on there. I don't know why I'm frozen. Anyways, all right, y'all. Well, that's been another episode of Throwing Light, and we're going to be out.
All right.
All right.
See you.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Emerald.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on a second. Let me just